If you're intermittent fasting for a weight loss goal, what you eat matters just as much as the fast itself. You probably heard the saying that you can't out-exercise a bad diet. The exact same thing goes with fasting. You can't out-fast a bad diet either. So today I'm sharing 10 foods that you should not break your fast with if you're looking to achieve a weight loss goal. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance, and today's video is sponsored by Element. More on them in a bit. When you're in a fasted state, the blood sugar level is really stable, which means the insulin level isn't skyrocketing. This allows the body to turn on fat burning during the fast and reap those benefits of body recomposition. So when you actually go to break your fast, you want to make sure that you're not eating something that's going to cause a huge skyrocket in your blood sugar level. Otherwise, this will just drastically raise your insulin, switch the body into a fat storing state instead, and reverse a lot of the progress that you just made with the fast itself. I found this super interesting article from a CGM website, which is a continuous glucose monitor, where they took a look at real blood sugar data from real people and what they actually ate, and were able to determine some of the absolute worst offenders for spiking blood sugar. Some of them are kind of obvious, but others are pretty shocking. I'll have the article below if you want to dive into the original, but let's dive into the first food. And that first food is grapes, which this is an interesting one because it's a whole fruit. It's not like you're drinking fruit juice. So oftentimes people think that they get like a free pass with fruit because it's just a whole fruit. And this one's tricky because if you were to look at the glycemic load of grapes, it's not extremely high, but 1 cup of grapes has around 15 to 20 grams of sugar. And my guess for why people saw these really big spikes in blood sugar when they eat grapes is first of all because they typically are eating it on its own. Grapes are one of those like snacky food items that you don't really sit and eat with a meal. People are just often grabbing it as a snack for on the go or in between meals. So you don't have any of that protein and fat to slow down the release of that blood sugar. So you just get this massive spike. Also, because of the size of grapes, it's pretty easy to eat a lot more than 1 cup, which means that you're going to be eating a lot more sugar than you probably realize. So when going to break your fast, some of the better fruit options are those that are naturally a lot lower in sugar and a lot higher in fiber. So things like raspberries, blackberries, and strawberries. And preferably also making sure you have it with some protein and fat to stabilize those blood sugar levels. Okay, the second food that might be a surprise for some people is sushi, because sushi is often seen as a health food item. I mean, it does have some really high quality fish in there, especially if you're struggling with getting your omega-3s, your DHA, your EPA, it can be a decent source. However, if we're honest, the vast majority of what you're eating is rice, and then there's like this little sliver of fish. And yes, there is the possible resistant starch component to this because it is cooled rice, but the blood glucose readings don't lie. And sushi was another one of those items that people had a really high blood sugar response to. And this data wasn't just from those with type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. It's all across the spectrum. So if you're having sushi, my personal recommendation is to actually opt for sashimi without the rice. That way you're getting a lot more of the actual protein component, a lot more of what's actually going to support your goals, and making sure you also pair that with some of their sides like a cucumber salad or a salmon skin salad. Okay, the third one is pretty obvious, or at least it should be, and that's donuts. Because I know when I worked in more of an office setting, donuts were around. They were pretty easily accessible, and I worked even in like a more health conscious setting. Donuts are kind of like a twofer. It's really high in refined flours and processed flours, as well as those refined sugars. So you get that double whammy blood sugar effect from both the flour and the sugar. Not to mention the glazes, the sprinkles, all the toppings. It's just such a sugar bomb plus refined flour bomb that it's quickly digested in the body, quickly causes a huge blood sugar spike, and obviously raises the storing hormone insulin as a result. Okay, the fourth food are pho and ramen, so kind of like a combination one. But both of these rely heavily on noodles, and noodles are going to be made with processed flours. So if you love pho or if you love ramen, a good swap is to use something like zucchini noodles or hearts of palm noodles. You could probably even use some spaghetti squash as the noodle alternative too. From what I understand, a lot of restaurants are even offering some of these alternative options now, or you could just make it at home and have complete control over the ingredients. Now, before we dive into the next food, I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Element. If you're intermittent fasting and if you're not replacing your electrolytes, you're really missing out, because intermittent fasting does tend to cause that really big drop in insulin levels that causes a really big loss in water and sodium. And if you don't balance that out, that can cause symptoms like headaches, muscle fatigue, low energy, and constipation. None of the things you want to experience when you're trying to work on a health and wellness goal. Element was specifically created for intermittent fasting, lower carb eating, and athletic performance in mind. And it comes in a ton of different flavors without any of those like sketchy coloring ingredients and without any sugar. One of my current favorite flavors is lemon habanero, but they also have orange orange, raspberry, citrus, and a lot of other flavors. I personally take the unflavored element either before or right after my workout in the morning when I'm in a fasted state. And especially lately, now that it's getting warmer out and my electrolyte needs are higher, I've typically been having a second one, which fits my needs perfectly. And that's when I'll have one of the flavored options like the lemon habanero or the raspberry salt. And right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 single serve packets free with any Element order. It's a really great way to test out all 8 flavors, so you can get yours at drinkelement.com/autumn. This is only available through my link, so make sure to check out drinkelement.com/autumn. I'll also have the link down description below. Okay, the 5th one is another food that a lot of people think is really healthy, but might not be so great for blood sugar levels, and that's oatmeal. I've been talking about this for a while, and I get so many people who get really mad at me in the comments. Now, both the instant and the rolled oats variety both have gone through processing that do make it a lot more easy to digest, break down, absorb, and turn into sugar in the body. Plus, most people aren't just eating a bowl of plain oatmeal with water. There's typically additives in there, whether that be maple syrup, brown sugar, jam, honey, or even adding granola or a ton of fruit. This can really start to add on in terms of the sugar content and make the blood sugar level just skyrocket. Even as a kid, I always found that oatmeal made me so hungry so quickly. I felt really full in the moment, but then I would feel so hungry within an hour or two. And it's likely because of that blood sugar crash. So I personally prefer to make a grain-free oatmeal recipe. I've shared my own recipe in the past if you guys want to test it out. It's super flavorful and actually takes less time to make than regular oatmeal. You can find that right up here. Okay, the 6th food that you should not break your fast with is an acai bowl. Now I'm talking a lot of the traditional acai bowls that people get at a smoothie restaurant, because although acai itself is really low in sugar and really high in antioxidants, the things that people will add into acai bowls are not. Usually to make it taste a little sweeter, or maybe a lot sweeter, places will add in a ton of banana, which each banana can have 22 or 28 grams of sugar, and then likely add in dates and honey, and then top it with granola and maybe a little bit more honey. Acai bowls, when you actually get down to it and count out the amount of sugar that's in one, can be as high as 100 grams of sugar. It's actually crazy. So if you really like acai bowls, because I actually really like them too, you just want to make sure that you're making it lower sugar. I've also shared one of my recipes for this in the past that I'll also have linked right up here. Okay, the 7th is just such a shocking one. You won't even believe it. Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. I know, if we can't trust them, who do we trust? But just looking at a typical menu for Chick-fil-A and McDonald's, most of the ingredients on there are made with highly processed flours and a lot of sugar, all of which really raise the blood sugar level. They are also hyper palatable, which means that they have a lot of flavor, that they are really tasty, which in this case is not actually a good thing because it bypasses our natural satiety cues. So it makes you want to eat more and more and more of these foods that spike the blood sugar even more. Now, I have clients who for work have to drive cross country often, and sometimes these are the only options available to them. So you can make better choices at places like Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. For example, Chick-fil-A does have different salad options and grilled chicken options instead of the breaded. And then I usually recommend, if you're able to bring on some type of high quality fat that is more shelf stable. So this could be some pumpkin seeds, some nuts, or even a jar of olives that you can then just toss on top as well. Okay, the 8th food that you should never break your fast with is pizza. And I'm actually going to also add in cauliflower crust pizza into this category. And we know with pizza, it's the same deal. It's really high in refined flours, and it's also not really high in protein at all. Even if you get the meat lovers pizza, the vast majority of what you're eating is just bread. And then there's the tomato sauce, which a lot of conventional tomato sauces add in a significant amount of sugar. But this doesn't mean that all cauliflower crusts are in the clear as a better option, because I found that maybe 9 out of 10 cauliflower crusts use a different processed flour like tapioca starch, potato starch, rice flour, which still can have a similar effect on blood sugar level. So if you are going to have a pizza, opt for a cauliflower crust that's made with just eggs, Parmesan, and cauliflower. Those are the best options. The brand I really love is called Outer Isle. There's also this newer trend of pizzas that I have personally not tried out. I don't know if it sounds great, but I've heard really great things about it. And it's called a pizza, which we gotta get better branding on that. That doesn't sound great. but it's essentially where you make the crust out of like chicken. I don't know. I've heard it tastes awesome. So if you tried it, let me know in the comments below. Okay, the ninth food that you should never break your fast with are pancakes. Whether it be pancakes that you get at a restaurant or from a box, they are going to have refined flours and sugar. And a lot of those gluten-free pancake boxes that you'll find at the grocery store are just as bad. So I personally do like to eat pancakes, but I do make my own protein versions of them. So I have a couple different protein pancake recipes that I'll make on a pretty consistent basis. So it's removing that refined flour and using either protein powder or cottage cheese as the base, and it is delicious. I will also have those recipes linked up here and down description below. Okay, the 10th food you should never break your fast with is cereal, but I'm also going to package into this granola because they're kind of the same thing. No matter how you slice it, even the whole grain cereals are still made from essentially processed flours or grains. Whole grain Cheerios or whole grain some other type of cereal is not quite the same thing as eating a cooked bowl of wheat berries, which is I think what people imagine when they hear that they're eating like whole grain cereals. They still undergo processing, it's still more rapidly absorbed in the body and can still cause a much bigger spike in the blood sugar level. And there are keto cereals that don't use these processed flours, but I'm always really hesitant on recommending these, especially because cereal is something people tend to eat on a fairly consistent basis. It's not like you buy a single serving box and you have it as one treat on one day. Typically you're buying a big box of it that you can have for multiple days over a period of time, so it's more habitual. And keto cereals, to compete with these other cereals, use a lot of hyper palatable zero sugar sweeteners. Even though they don't have the true sugar content that's going to spike the blood sugar level, it can still hijack your satiety and make you want to eat more and more than what you really need and work against the weight loss portion of your goal. So instead, I like to have more whole food sources for a break fast meal. That could be like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese bowls with some nuts and seeds on top. But if you want to get more of an idea of foods that can help to support your goals, you can check out the 10 foods that I eat every day as a nutritionist with this video next. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.